Hey, welcome back. So Tanzania, and especially Zanzibar, has a thriving street food scene, so I wanted to check out one of their famous skewer recipes called mishkaki, as well as a side dish of greens called mchicha. So let's get started with the meat. Here I've got a half a kilo of sirloin that I'm going to cut into 2cm pieces. Now, all the recipes I could find were for beef, but I want to try this with chicken just to see how it turns out. So here I've got a half a kilo of chicken thighs. These ones have skin and bones, so I'm going to peel off that skin and save it for later. That also goes really well on skewers. It's like crispy bacon. So I'm just going to cut along the bone. Save those for soup later on. And I'll cut the meat into a similar size as the beef. Add all that meat into a bowl. Then I'll add in 35 grams of minced ginger. And for those of you who don't know how to prep ginger, I'm going to show you the pro grandma technique right here. Grab yourself a spoon and hold it like this with the bowl facing you. Now brace your thumb against the ginger and peel it by pulling the spoon towards you. This is a really efficient way to peel ginger without losing too much of the ginger itself. Now mince that up finely. I find it helps to rock the knife on its side like this, to sort of mash the ginger into a paste. Add that into the bowl. Along with about 30 grams of minced garlic. Once again, we want to create a paste out of this, so go ahead and smash it firmly with the side of your knife. Pull out any large stems like this one. That's just going to add a bitter flavor. Add a pinch of salt, not really enough to flavor the garlic. This is really just to help with abrasion. Then we'll press our knife out on its side, just like with the ginger, to mash it into a paste as well. Next up, let's add 30 milliliters of soy sauce. This is optional and it's only in some recipes that I've seen, but it should add some nice depth of flavor. Next up, let's add 30 milliliters of oil. Add in the juice of 1 lemon. Add in 5 grams or 2 teaspoons of Garam Masala. That's a basic Indian spice blend consisting of coriander, cumin, clove, cardamom, and any number of other spices. Five grams or 2 teaspoons of curry powder. That's usually just a blend of chili powder, turmeric, coriander, and cumin, so a little bit overlap with the Garam Masala. 5 grams or 2 teaspoons of chili powder. I'm using cayenne here. A few pinches of salt. And as much ground pepper as you want. Let's mix that together thoroughly so each piece is coated. No need to keep track of which is chicken and which is beef. They both have totally different textures and shapes, so you'll be able to spot each one by feel. Let's cover that up and throw it in the fridge for a couple hours to marinate. While the meat's marinating, let's go ahead and work on our mchicha. Go ahead and get 15 milliliters of oil going in a pot over medium-high heat. And once the oil comes up to temperature, add in a thinly sliced quarter of an onion. And saute that for a few minutes until it softens. Once the onions are translucent, we can go in with our greens. Now this big bunch is called amaranth, which is a fibrous green that's used in all sorts of cuisines. It's used in African cuisines, Chinese cuisine. Apparently the seeds have health benefits, and although it can be pretty hard to find in the States, I looked out because my greengrocer was selling it for callaloo, which is a Caribbean dish that uses either amaranth or taro leaves. They have a bit of a grassy vegetal flavor that reminds me a bit of much less bitter dandelion green. Now, if you're not able to get these, I wouldn't recommend using dandelion because it's much too bitter. Instead, once it's cooked, it actually tastes quite a bit like spinach, so go ahead and use that. Now, the stems can be a bit fibrous, so I like to remove them from the larger leaves. Then I'll go ahead and chop these into thin strips. And dump them in with the onions. Along with our greens, let's add a thinly sliced tomato. As well as a few pinches of salt. Then go ahead and saute the greens until most of their water releases and starts to evaporate. At which point we can add in some coconut cream. Go ahead and open a can of coconut milk that's been sitting for a little bit. Be sure not to shake it up or things will get homogenized and you won't be able to get the cream. So once you remove the lid, you'll notice a thick substance on top. Scoop that out and transfer it to a bowl. And keep scooping till you get to the actual coconut milk. The cream has a richer flavor and a thicker texture than homogenized coconut milk. So try and use that, otherwise you'll have to reduce your coconut milk to get the texture we want out of our greens. So add the cream to the greens. Mix it in thoroughly. And let that evaporate and reduce a little bit until it creates a clear path on the bottom of the pot when you stir it. And with that, the greens are done, and we can move back to the meat. So let's prep our skewers by threading a few pieces of meat onto each one. And normally I'd barbecue these on a charcoal grill, but we got thunderstorms going here, so I'm going to try doing this in my toaster oven under the broiler, which I think should turn out nicely. So line the skewers up on a tray to catch any drippings. Set your toaster to broil, and once it's preheated for about 10 minutes, put the tray inside the toaster. And let's broil those skewers, rotating frequently. Until they're browned on each side. And the internal temperature of the steak reaches 60 degrees Celsius, while the chicken reads 73 Celsius. And with that, we're ready to serve. So between the garam masala and the curry powder, that's got a total tandoori vibe that I didn't expect, but I'm digging. It's earthy, it's spicy, but it's also got this bright pop from the cardamom and coriander that are in the garam masala, and it works really well. Honestly, I think I prefer the chicken a little bit better. It's just a nicer balance of flavor. And as for the mchicha, it's basically like a creamed spinach with a tropical flair thanks to the coconut milk. So I hope you guys give this a try either in your oven or at your next barbecue. If you want to support the channel, I've got a Patreon link down in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.